Hello friends! Waving hand welcome to our new video. If you enjoy it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
The announcement crackled through the speakers. Last call for Flight 228 to San Francisco. She didn't move. Not yet. Maya stood by the glass wall of the departure gate, her fingers clutching a frayed red scarf like it was the only thread keeping her from unraveling. The scarf wasn't hers, it never had been, but she carried it as though its fabric still breathed. Her knuckles whitened as she squeezed it tighter, the wool scratching against her palm, grounding her. Outside, planes slid across the rain-slick runway, their blinking lights flickering like silent signals only the sky could understand. People rushed past her, heels clicking, suitcases rolling, voices colliding in a blur. But she stayed still, her gaze fixed on nothing and everything. Her reflection in the glass startled her. Pale face, tired eyes rimmed in sleepless shadows, lips pressed together like they were holding back an entire storm. She looked like a ghost waiting to be called back into her own body. Her phone vibrated in her coat pocket. She didn't check it. She knew the name that would glow on the screen, knew the message waiting, and she wasn't ready to read it. Not yet. Her chest rose unevenly as she whispered to herself, so quietly no one else could hear. She laughed. She laughed at me like I was nothing. The words hung heavy, bitter in her mouth. She remembered the echo of that laugh inside the boardroom, the way her boss leaned back in the leather chair, tilting her head, smiling as if Maya's idea was a child's drawing, pretty but useless. The memory burned more than any insult could have. Her eyes flickered to the cracked watch on her wrist. The hands had frozen weeks ago at 3:17, and she still wore it anyway. A reminder. A wound that looked like jewelry. A boy tugged at his mother's sleeve nearby, asking if they'd missed their flight. Maya blinked hard, her throat tightening as she looked away. She wasn't supposed to be here, not in this terminal, not waiting for this moment. But when opportunity walked through the same door her humiliation had come from, she had grabbed it with trembling, furious hands. She could almost hear the conversation again. The client's voice. The way he had listened to her, really listened, as if her words carried weight. As if her idea wasn't ridiculous but alive. The scarf slipped in her grip, almost falling. She caught it fast, pressing it against her lips for a second, breathing in its faint, unfamiliar scent. Her plane was boarding. Her phone buzzed again, and Maya's pulse drummed harder. She turned her head slowly, scanning the crowd, eyes searching for someone she both hoped and feared would appear. But the gate door hissed shut, and she was left standing in the silence just before everything changes. The boarding gate had closed, but Maya stayed rooted in place, scarf still balled in her hand. Her breath fogged the glass, blurring the runway lights into hazy constellations. For a moment, she felt suspended between two worlds, the one she had left, and the one she wasn't sure she deserved to enter. Her eyes drifted to a little girl running into her father's arms near baggage claim. He bent, scooping her up as if she were the only thing that mattered in the world. Maya's throat tightened. She remembered waiting like that once. Back when her father came home from late shifts at the factory, shoulders hunched, palms blackened from machines. He'd always bring her something small. A paper bag folded into a bird, a coin rubbed shiny in his pocket. "You hold on to things, Maya," he'd said once, handing her an old scarf her mother left behind. "Even the smallest thing can keep you standing when everything else falls apart." Her fingers brushed over the frayed ends now. This scarf wasn't the same, but it carried the same weight. Proof that objects remember even when people don't. The memories pressed against her ribs, colliding with the fresh ache of the boardroom. She had needed that promotion. Not for glory. Not even for pride. Rent was late. Her fridge was empty except for leftover rice and half a jar of peanut butter. Nights were colder when loneliness pressed against her more than the draft did. All she wanted was proof she wasn't invisible. Instead, her boss had laughed. And in that laughter, Maya had heard the same dismissal she'd felt her whole life. The landlord's sigh, the recruiter's polite rejection, the quiet pity in her neighbor's eyes. She had sworn silently that she wouldn't be laughed at again. Behind her, a man shifted in his seat. Maya noticed him in the reflection first. Dark jacket, suitcase by his feet, posture too still to be casual. He wasn't pretending to scroll through his phone like the others. He was watching her, not with intrusion, but with a quietness that felt deliberate, as if he was waiting for her to do something. She turned slightly, meeting his eyes for half a breath. His expression was unreadable. Not pity, not curiosity, something steadier. She looked away fast, heart skittering in her chest. Her phone buzzed again. This time she pulled it out. One message glowed on the screen. "We need to talk. Now." The scarf slipped lower in her hand, threads brushing the floor. The announcement overhead called another flight, voices swelling and fading like tides. She should move. She should choose. Instead, she hesitated. Her steps caught between departure and return, her lips curving into a half-smile she didn't fully understand. And in the corner of her vision, she felt the stranger's gaze linger. The glass panes rattled softly as rain began to streak down, blurring the runway into streaks of silver. The airport lights fractured through the droplets like broken stars. Maya pulled the scarf tighter around her wrist, the wool scratching her skin, her thoughts louder than the storm outside. She should have walked away already. Her gate was gone, her choice half made. But someone kept her anchored. The stranger hadn't moved. He sat a few seats back, posture calm but unyielding, as though the chaos of departures and goodbyes couldn't touch him. His suitcase bore scuffs along the edges, leather rubbed raw from too many journeys. When he shifted, his coat fell open just enough for Maya to glimpse a photograph tucked halfway out of his wallet. Edges bent, colors faded. A young boy's smile. Family maybe, or a memory too heavy to throw away. Maya's chest tightened. She shouldn't notice these things. She shouldn't wonder why his shoes were worn at the toes, why his knuckles bore pale scars that looked old and purposeful. But she did. And in him she saw herself. Pieces she didn't want reflected back. The thunder rolled outside, low and insistent like a warning. She gripped the cracked watch on her wrist, its frozen hands pressing into her skin. We're both carrying things that don't move anymore, she thought. Both stuck between where we came from and where we're supposed to go. Her phone buzzed again. The message on the screen burned into her. "You don't know what you've done." Her boss's voice seemed to leak through the words, sharp and ridiculing even now. Maya swallowed hard, sliding the phone back into her coat. Every part of her screamed to leave before anyone could find her. But her gaze flicked back to the stranger, and his eyes, steady, unreadable, met hers as if he had been waiting for her to finally look. Her heart stumbled. Was he just another traveler caught in the same storm? Or was his silence too precise, his presence too intentional? "Why are you still here?" she whispered under her breath, not realizing the words had slipped out. His lips twitched, almost a smile, almost not. He didn't answer. Instead, the storm outside deepened, rain slamming harder against the glass. Families huddled closer, children squealing at the thunder. And yet between them, a strange stillness hung, as if the airport had narrowed into just two people carrying the weight of different lives, bound by an invisible thread neither had chosen. Maya's feet edged forward as though pulled toward him, but her hand clutched the scarf harder, holding her back. The loudspeaker called another departure. She froze, and when she looked again, he was still watching, unmoving, unexplained. Maya rose at last, her knees trembling as if she had been sitting in chains. The scarf slipped from her wrist, dropping to the polished airport floor with a whisper-soft sound. For one moment she almost let it stay there, abandoned like everything else she had been forced to shed. Her steps carried her toward the exit. Each one felt like dragging a stone through water. She told herself she wouldn't look back. Not at him. Not at the storm pressing against the glass. Not at the past chasing her phone with every vibration. But her body betrayed her. At the sliding doors she stopped. Her reflection glared back at her. Eyes red-rimmed, lips parted as if she was holding a scream behind her teeth. She clenched her fists until her nails dug crescents into her palms. One step more and she could vanish into the crowd. Then the sound. Footsteps. Slow. Purposeful. She turned just enough. The stranger stood behind her, scarf in his hand. He had picked it up. Not with urgency, not as a favor, but with the quiet gravity of someone lifting a fragile thing that wasn't theirs to keep. Her throat closed. The scarf dangled between them like a bridge she hadn't chosen to build. Some people carry more than just bags. His voice was low, almost drowned by the storm outside. They carry silence. Her breath caught. The words felt heavier than the scarf itself, as if he had named her without asking. Behind them, a woman muttered to her husband, "Poor girl, looks lost." A teenage boy rolled his eyes. A security guard gave her a lingering glance, the kind that asked questions without speaking them. The judgment stung, though no one knew the truth of her story. They didn't need to. They saw enough in her hesitation, in her trembling, in the way she stood too close to a man who wasn't saying enough. Maya stepped forward, reached for the scarf, but his hand didn't release it immediately. For half a heartbeat they both held it. The thread stretched taut between their fingers, alive with an unspoken war. Her cracked watch gleamed faintly in the fluorescent light, its frozen time mirrored in the stillness between them. "I don't need your help," she whispered, though her voice betrayed her, softer than she meant. His gaze didn't waver. The storm growled louder, rattling the windows as if the world itself was listening. Her hand trembled as she finally pulled the scarf free, clutching it to her chest. For a second she thought she might collapse there in the terminal. Instead she forced her feet to move. One step, then another. And yet she looked back. Once. Only once. And he was still standing there, waiting, as if the silence had chosen her too. The storm had eased into a restless drizzle by the time Maya reached the quieter side of the terminal. Her body moved, but her mind churned, her boss's words still vibrating against her ribs, the stranger's silence clinging like a shadow she couldn't shake. She stopped near a dim cafe corner, scarf pressed to her chest, and finally let herself breathe. Just once. Shallow, ragged. Her phone buzzed again. This time the message was different. "Did you meet him?" Her stomach dropped. Cold spread through her fingers, the scarf slipping a little. "Meet who?" Slowly she turned. He was there again, not close, not far. Just there. Watching without apology. And this time she noticed what had been invisible before. The insignia on his suitcase tag. A name she recognized. Strathmore Industries. Her breath snagged. That was the client. The very empire her boss had built her reputation on. The same company Maya had secretly pitched her stolen idea to. No. Not pitched. Sold. She staggered back, pulse hammering. Was it coincidence? Fate? Or was she walking inside a trap she had spun herself? The scarf slipped further, tumbling open in his hand now. She froze, staring. His thumb stroked along the edge, not carelessly but like memory itself was sewn into the fabric. "It was hers," he said at last, voice stripped bare. "My daughter's." Maya's chest caved. Suddenly it wasn't just a scarf, it was a grave she hadn't meant to touch. She wanted to let it fall, to run, but her fingers wouldn't obey. Her father's words echoed back, ghost-like. "You hold on to things, Maya. Even the smallest thing can keep you standing when everything else falls apart." She wanted to scream at the memory, to ask why the smallest things always carried the heaviest weights. The stranger, no, not just a stranger anymore, lifted his gaze, meeting hers with something that pierced deeper than judgment. "You don't know what you've done," he murmured. The exact line she had read on her phone. Time loop. Same words, new blade. Maya's lungs seized. No return now. The choice was already behind her, and whatever door was ahead could not be closed again. Her legs moved without permission. Past him. Past the rows of plastic chairs, the smell of coffee, the whispers of curious onlookers. At the end of the corridor, a door stood half open. A conference room. Inside, she glimpsed a table scattered with files. Her idea's blueprint lay among them. The room waited. The decision waited. And Maya, scarf clutched like a wound, walked inside. The conference room was colder than the terminal. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, too sharp, too white. Papers lay scattered across the table. Her idea, Her sketches, her words, now detached from her, naked in their vulnerability. Maya froze at the threshold. And then her boss's voice cut the silence like a blade. "So you really thought you could sell my client behind my back?" The words weren't shouted. They were worse, soft and deliberate, the same way she had laughed at Maya weeks ago. That laugh still rang in Maya's bones. Her boss stood at the far end of the table, polished and perfect, lips curved in that same dismissive smirk. And beside her, him. The stranger. Only now he wasn't just a shadow in the crowd. His presence filled the space like thunder waiting to break. "Maya." His voice was steady but heavy. He placed the scarf gently on the table between them, as if it were an offering or a judgment. "This isn't just business. You know that, don't you?" Her chest ached, but she forced words out. "It was my idea. She mocked me. I just wanted to be heard." Her boss gave a sharp laugh. "You want it to matter. Don't we all?" The room spun with the storm outside, raindrops streaking against the window like racing tears. Maya clutched her cracked watch, its frozen hands pressing against her skin like shackles. Then he spoke again, eyes fixed on her. "Do you know why I listened to you that night? Why I believed you?" Her breath caught. He slid the scarf forward closer. "Because you reminded me of her. My daughter. She fought the same way, against walls no one believed she could climb. And she carried this scarf the way you carry your silence. Like it was both shield and wound." Maya's throat closed. The scarf blurred in her vision. Not hers. Never hers. Her boss's smile widened, sensing victory. "So this is pity. How predictable." But he turned then, slowly, deliberately, to her. "No. It's not pity. It's recognition." The air cracked. For one impossible second Maya saw it, the choice laid bare. To cling to vengeance, to keep proving herself by stealing, by grasping, or to release, to surrender the weight she had carried like armor. Her father's voice echoed through the storm of her mind. "Even the smallest thing can keep you standing." And so she did the only thing that broke her heart and freed it at once. She pushed the scarf across the table, toward him, away from herself. "I can't carry what isn't mine," she whispered. The silence that followed was heavier than thunder. Her boss scoffed, dismissing her with a flick of the wrist. But the stranger, no, the man who had been watching her all along, closed his hand over the scarf, eyes glimmering with something unnameable. He didn't offer partnership. He didn't offer salvation. What he offered was harder, sharper acknowledgement. And in that, Maya felt something break and something grow. She turned toward the glass wall, the runway lights blinking through the rain like scattered stars. The same place she had once stood, clutching the scarf in fear. Only now her hands were empty, not lighter, but freer. She walked out without looking back. And the storm followed her like a witness. Not every stranger you help is meant to stay. But some leave you changed forever. Weeks later, the storm had passed, but its echo lingered. Maya walked home along the narrow street where the lamplight leaned across cracked pavement. Her steps were unhurried now, not because life had grown easier, but because she no longer felt chased by it. She carried no scarf in her hands, only the weight of her own pulse steady, alive. Inside her small apartment, the quiet wrapped around her like an old friend. She set her bag down and, without thinking, opened the drawer of her desk. There it was, the scarf, folded, resting in the faint spill of afternoon light. She had returned it after the meeting, yet somehow it had come back to her. Not by choice but by grace, or maybe by mistake. Her fingers hovered above it but did not touch. It wasn't hers to carry anymore. It belonged to memory, to silence, to a man who had looked at her and seen more than a foolish girl desperate to be heard. She closed the drawer gently, as if tucking away a story. On her wrist, the cracked watch remained, frozen at 3:17. It no longer haunted her. It marked something different now. Not a wound but a reminder. That time had broken once and she had kept moving anyway. She poured herself tea, the steam curling like soft whispers against her face. From her window she watched neighbors laugh, couples walking arm in arm, children tugging kites that barely caught the wind. For the first time, she didn't feel left outside of it all. Loneliness hadn't vanished, but it had shifted. It had teeth no longer. Her father's voice returned like a tide, not painful this time but grounding. You hold on to things, Maya, even the smallest thing can keep you standing. She smiled faintly, realizing now that holding on could also mean letting go. Her phone buzzed once more. A new message. Not from her boss. Not from him. Just a recruiter, a fresh possibility. She didn't open it yet. Some choices deserved silence before sound. Maya leaned her forehead against the glass, watching her own reflection blur with